Welcome, everybody, to the July episode of the Flow Pro Show. I'm Sandy, coming to you from Northern California again.
Yeah, again, that's a first.
I know.
And I'm Daniel, and I'm coming from Utrecht again, but that's normal.
And I'm Serge, I'm coming from Brussels. Again,
Okay.
again.
So, Sandy, how have you been?
Well, okay, except that apparently I broke my shoulder yesterday over the weekend and I have no idea how, but so I'm doing everything one-handed and kind of on pain medication. So Daniel's gonna do most of this time.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have co-hosts. That's the whole point.
Yeah. So here we go.
But otherwise, good. How about you?
Yeah, pretty good actually. Yeah, surviving COVID and hoping there's not going to be a second bump, or how do you call it? I'm a little bit afraid of that, but apart from that, I'm doing pretty good actually. So
well, luckily you're not in the US then.
Yeah, well, close to us there's some problems as well, because I just heard in Belgium it's not really well as well, but. I hope it's well, it's not going to be bad.
I've escaped the country last week, so I took a flight, which was very strange. I mean, and I got back. So.
Oh, yeah.
So now, do you have to quarantine for 2 weeks?
No, I don't have to. I went to Portugal, which is normally an okay, so I don't have to quarantine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the guest today is of course Serge.
Yes.
A lot of you will probably already know him, because yeah, he's very well known, especially with his nickname Dr. Flow. So,
yeah, my alias is Serge.
Exactly. So yeah, this is going to be a really fun episode, and we can't wait to hear from you about what you have been up to lately, because you have done some great new stuff. So yeah, looking forward to hear about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But first, we'll start with the news.
As we usually do. Yep.
Yeah, this is actually a really big one. And it doesn't say it in the title of the blog post, but this is all about data flex, and that was the new announcement last week, I believe. Yeah, last week, right? I think so.
Yes, I think so.
It was last week. Yeah.
So
CDS is being renamed to DataFlex Pro, and there's going to be also a DataFlex, so without the Pro, and that's going to be included in Microsoft Teams. So you will be able to add the Power Apps app to Teams, and then from there you can create DataFlex environments and yeah, start working from there. You can create apps, flows, you can create tables, which is also a new thing, because CDS used to have entities, of course. And that's now being yeah, changed to tables, like everyone else, I believe.
Back to normal.
Yeah, exactly. And also the fields are being changed to columns, I believe. So that's also to normal. And yeah, that wasn't the only thing that we saw in this blog post, but also there were some new announcements about, for instance, add mentioning users, which you can do now with Power Automate, and also the on a selected message. That's also one of the new triggers you have within Teams, and I believe there's a lot more coming, like create a team. That's also a really big one that's coming soon. So that's going to be really interesting. So yeah, whenever DataFlex is coming out, I believe they are aiming for September or something for the public preview, I think. So whenever that's out, then we should probably ask also one of the people from DataFlex to tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's really interesting as well. And I'm really thinking about all the possibilities, and yeah, it's a lot of new possibilities for people who were always tied to Microsoft 365 and SharePoint and those kinds of things. So they now have an extra option. And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I believe a lot of people will still use SharePoint because they are used to it and they know how it works and so on and so on. But I believe a fair amount of new solutions will be built in here as well. So that's probably the exciting thing.
Yeah, so many people are using Teams completely.
Exactly.
So yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that and to the Power Automate things in Teams personally. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So we already had a Power Automate app, I believe, in Teams. So we could use that for approvals and editing our own flows, of course, those kinds of things. But there will be another way to create flows as well from the Power Apps app. So yeah, that's another one. And the next one was about 10 new connectors. Yeah, they always combine all the new connectors in a month, I believe. And there were 10 new connectors in the month of June. One of them was shifts, for instance. So the stuff that's also in Teams as well for managing your team with the shifts they have and so on. And there's also one, I believe, eDocs is the one that you see on the top as well at the right side.
From OpenText, yeah, that's a serious thing.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big
OpenText eDocs. That's the one with one fox at the top, the second from the right. Yeah, and there are some other ones as well. I didn't know all of them, but you should certainly look into that if they are useful for you.
Yep.
Yeah, then there's a lot of UI flows news because yeah, we already talked a little bit about that.
Kind of the way of the future, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so Power Automate is doing a lot of RPA stuff lately, and you can see that a lot in the blog post as well. I believe 9 out of 10 of the last blog posts were all about UI flows. So it's a big focus, and I believe that a lot of people like RPA. So I think that it's a huge opportunity, and they are announcing a lot of new stuff. So there's support for loops, for instance. So you can use an apply to each action in your UI flows now. And you can also add an array into your inputs, for instance. So if you want to use multiple users, for instance, or something like that, you can add an array and put the array into the input. Another one, I don't know if we already talked about that, but I believe Ken showed it as well in his demos last time. The sensitive text one, that's also a relatively new one. And that's to make sure that you can send passwords, for instance, really secure instead of using that as a text field, for instance. So that's also a good one.
Yeah, those sound like huge feature additions there.
Yeah, array and apply to each is really a big one. And yeah, this one was also a really big one. It's about using running multiple concurrent UI flows on a single machine. And that's really important because a lot of people who use RPA probably know this, but a lot of companies that use RPA a lot, they have a lot of servers that they run for RPA processes. And if you can slim that down, so if you can have less machines, it saves a lot of money. So this is a really big thing. It doesn't save on licenses though. That's a really big thing you should know, because you can't just use one license for the whole machine. You have to get a license for every user that's on the machine if you run multiple UI flows on that, at least. So that's something that's yeah, it's really nice to do that, but yeah, you still have to take into account that it costs licenses. But it's impressive technology. Another one about RPA.
This one is very, very impressive.
Yeah. This one is about Citrix, remote apps, and also remote desktops. And they are available in the new update from UI Flows. And yeah, it's actually really impressive because UI Flows doesn't have the control over Citrix machines or remote apps that they usually have with the normal UI Flows on the machine, on the desktop. So they need to, for instance, take screenshots and then figure out where the button is on the screen. And that's really impressive technology. So I'm really excited about this one. Yeah, let's see what that will bring, because I believe a lot of people also, this is really aimed at the end user, because Citrix is also usually a lot of end user stuff. So if you are an admin or something, you would create a VM maybe or something like that, and just put it on Windows. Yeah, this is really for the end user. So it's more about hyper automation and those kinds of things. So it's interesting as well. Another RPA one. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, this is RPA in a day. That's a new course that Microsoft announced, and this is about 11 or 10 labs in the whole day, and it's about creating your first UI flow, but also about running UI flows attended or unattended. That's a really big thing that a lot of people need to know before they start with RPA. And there's lots of other stuff in there as well. They also touch a little bit on the AI builder features, so that's also really an interesting one. Yeah, if you haven't tried it yet, please try it out, because it's a really nice course.
So, I mean, if people aren't familiar with the blank in a day things, there's the Power Automate in a day, and you wrote that, right, Serge?
Yeah, I wrote it 2 years ago, and I've updated every month since 2018. Yes, indeed, and there will be a new upgrade in September.
Oh, okay. And so then is the RP, and those are things that people, so basically labs that people can kind of run themselves, and other people can attend. And
exactly. So you can run all the lab yourself alone if you want, or you can organize a course, a share course. There's no RPA in this lab, but I think we need probably 1 or 2 labs on API or RPA, just an introduction.
And then I will try to this one.
And refer, of course, to the RPA course. Yes. Yeah.
So then, do we know who wrote this? Is this from Microsoft, or where it is? Okay.
It's from Microsoft. So the RPA or UI Flows team wrote this. So,
but it's like no charge, right? And anybody can do it, and anybody can run it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you go to the link, then you can just download the student package, but also the trainer package. So if you want to give the workshop, you can do that as well. So that's
so you don't have to be partner. You don't have to be Microsoft partner to give the workshop.
No,
is that correct? Okay.
Everybody can do that.
Yeah, those kind of resources are awesome.
Yeah, they're really nice. But I believe Microsoft is still doing the robotic process automation in a day with partners at the Microsoft offices. But you can still create your own workshop, of course, and do that for your customers or something like that.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Cool.
The next one, that's also, I like this a lot, but I've done a couple of videos around this.
Yeah, great video, by the way, great video.
Yeah, thanks. But I'm now a little bit done with it. I've done too much of this, probably.
Well, so what sort of thing did you? So I apologize, I didn't watch your video yet. What sort of thing did you do? Like, what kind of a use case would you see for this?
So what I did, I did a really simple use case because I wanted to be an entry level. And what I did in my first video was creating a table and renaming some stuff in the worksheet. and tying it up into Power Automate, because you have the availability of Office scripts in Excel, but you also have it in the Excel connector in Power Automate, and there's little differences between it. So if you, for instance, record a script in Excel, it's like a macro. So you can just hit record, do some steps, and then it will record those steps. And then you can say stop and save the script. But that's also, it's a little bit like RPA. It's like an attended and an unattended scenario. So you have an attended scenario where you would run that Office script in Excel for the web, because it only works in the web right now. But you would run that as a user from the Excel sheet. So, for instance, you're working on a project and you have to enter data into a table, or you have to create tables, and so on and so on. And if they are the same tables all the time, you probably want to automate that. So that's something you can do, but that's an attended scenario. An unattended scenario would, for instance, be add something to a table and then add some formulas in there and do some more stuff that you can't do with the Excel connector, for instance. And that's why you have those Excel scripts in the connector, or the Office scripts in the Excel connector. And then you can do even more. So at the bottom of this screenshot, you can see that this Excel or Office script in the Excel connector, it has triggered the save response script, and it added the sender and the response as an input for that script. And in here, it's just a script running without any inputs. So there's no big thing in here. It's just a simple task that's running. And that's possible with those Office scripts, and it's really nice to see Excel get a lot of new features, because I've seen a lot of new features from Excel the last time, and I think that's really impressive, because a lot of people think about Excel that it's a really old school product.
No.
But they have done a lot of really new stuff and really cool stuff in there as well. And I think this is one of those great examples for it. So.
And I see that, yeah, so that takes advantage of the fact that the scripts are stored in your OneDrive.
Yeah, this is a OneDrive, but you can also do it on SharePoint, for instance.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you can. You also have the possibility to share the scripts with others that are using that workbook. So, for instance, when I would create a workbook and add some scripts to that, and I want to invite you to that same workbook, I can figure out if I want to share those scripts or not. So I can share the get people script, for instance, with you guys, and this one I don't share with you guys, for instance. So that's possible as well.
Are there any features that we cannot do in Office script, but we can do in the normal Excel connector? Or
I think everything can be done in the Office scripts as well. Yeah.
So it's a superset of what you can do in the normal connector.
Yeah. So there's lots of other stuff available there as well. Lots of graph, like the charts and so on.
Those kinds of things. Well.
You can do those things as well. Yeah. So there's all kinds of things. It's like a wrapper around JavaScript SDK, I believe. So there's lots of things possible in there as well. So nice. Yeah, take a look at it. And in the blog post here, they have lots of links in there also to the complete documentation about what you can do with it. So make sure to check that out.
Okay.
So. Community highlights already.
Yeah, April.
Yeah.
Oh, I see April just joined recently too.
Oh.
Oh, she's there. Yes. Hello, April.
Hi, April. So she just released a new video, provision SharePoint list with Power Automate, and we had another community highlight last month about also provisioning SharePoint lists with Power Automate. But that was by John Liu, and he did how is it called again? The
site design. He did
site design and site scripts.
Site script.
Yeah, and this is a different approach. So this is using the SP SharePoint HTTP action, and it's just creating the list with certain actions. Yeah, this is a really nice overview. It shows the COVID template that the Power Platform team put out there, and they also used the same technique. So it's really good to take a look at what she did with this video.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there's also tons of new episodes from Automated.
Yeah, they're doing it weekly, right?
Yeah, they're doing it weekly. So there's a lot of stuff in there as well. And yeah, make sure to watch that show. We're not going to talk about all of them because otherwise we'll take too much time of searches.
And in case people don't know, that's John Levesque and Kent Weir and
Pranav.
Yeah.
Pranav is also in there.
Mm-hmm.
But they're really nice subjects. It's all about RPA so far. So I'm curious if they also do some other stuff in there. But I'm sure that they will do more than only RPA in there.
You know what we need? We need a state machine for RPA.
Well, actually, it works.
They will ship in RPA.
in Win Automation, it already works.
Yeah,
so.
yes.
But don't tell anyone.
Don't get Daniel started.
No, exactly. Yeah, the last thing before we hand it over to Serge, the Global Microsoft 365 Charity Quiz is coming up this Thursday, so in 2 days. It's really nice to see that there is a charity quiz around Microsoft 365, not Office 365, that's Microsoft 365 now, Azure and the Power Platform, and also a little bit of Dynamics, I believe. They do it in certain areas, so they do it in Australia, New Zealand, Latin America, UK and USA. And if you want to register, you can go to eventshub.com and you will have to pay a little bit of money because it goes to charity, of course, if you want to attend. I believe the charity in UK, for instance, is Black Minds Matter, which is about Black Lives Matter, but then it's more about getting people through college or giving them a better chance of higher education and so on. So that's a really nice cause. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please do, and donate to charity.
I imagine it might be too late to form a team at this point.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
So maybe just ask
and find out.
Or pay a lot of money, then they probably will.
Yeah, they will allow you.
So yeah, with that. Let's go on. And I already took a lot of time with with all the news. So let's talk a little bit about Serge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me share my desktop, right?
Sure. Yep.
Do you see?
Yeah, so we want to know a little bit about you first and what kinds of things you do with Power Automate and what brought this about that you're going to demo to us.
So let me start. But I think Daniel already introduced me, right? So I'm Dr. Flo, and like you, I'm a business MVP, and I'm a Power Platform solution architect. So I'm based in Belgium, in Brussels. I'm also the author of Power Automate in a Day, as I mentioned before, and I'm the author of a new tool that I will demonstrate, which is the BPM toolkit. And so I've run a company with Isabel. So Isabel is present in the people. And the company is called Power Platform Associates. So we provide Power Platform consulting. And we have a concept called the Power Platform Factory 2020, where we share a set of best practice regarding IT governance, Power Platform administration, Power Platform learning, adoption, security, and enterprise architecture. And today, demo will be about enterprise architecture and more specifically about BPM. So BPM means Business Process Management. So basically, it's enterprise process, right? So mission critical enterprise process. And I will show you a few examples. if you want to create complex business process, well, normally in the industry, we have tools that we call BPM. So the problem with BPM, Business Process Management Tools, is that they are very complex and very expensive. However, when you start using BPM tools, in BPM, they see issue or problems to solve as cases. So, and I did implement a case management pattern that I will illustrate, which is actually the foundation of the tool called the BPM, the Power Platform BPM Toolkit. So you will see that in business process, so or in case management in general, the concept of approval is very, very important. And we have approval in Power Automate, but if you want to create mission critical approvals with Power Automate, you will quickly meet some limitation. And we will talk about that. So that's why I've created the following tool, which is the Power Platform Business Process Management Toolkit, which actually will be free, will be put in GitHub in the coming month, right? So you will be able to use that for your own usage if you want. Okay. And let me illustrate quickly. I don't want to be too boring, but let's take the case of an HR request. There are many other examples, but let's take this example here. And in the case of my specific customer, the customer I'm currently working with, my customer has 70 type of HR requests. And this customer is actually using PeopleSoft, but they want to move away from PeopleSoft because PeopleSoft cannot fulfill all the future needs, and also PeopleSoft is not in the cloud. So they want to leave PeopleSoft. So they have 70 type of HR requests, and they have 7 type of workflows, business process. And one request can take up to 1 year to be approved or to be completed. Okay. And as you know, in Power Automate, if you start an approval in Power Automate, there is a limitation, which is 30 days. So after 30 days, your workflow stops, which is one, which is a huge issue in Power Automate. Also, for this kind of request, supervisors, so let's say managers and users, want to be able to see what's coming next and what were the previous steps. So they want a full visibility on the whole process, the future and the past as well. So they want to interact with the process.
Is that like BPF?
It's a little bit like BPF, but you will see that there's many features that we can do that BPF cannot do.
Okay.
Okay, cool. But that's actually good remark. Also, people, so people, I mean supervisor, manager, and end user, want to have a dashboard of everything, of their task. They want to have a dashboard of their business process. So they want things to be visual and simple. And for HR, the following request is a normal, simple request. Example, let's take a case of a leave request for medical reason. Okay, so we have employees in Paris, for instance. They want to make a leave request. First, the request needs to be validated by a doctor. So it's medical information, so it's highly sensitive information. And then the legal department need to check if this leave request is a right or just a possibility. And then it needs to be validated by manager, line manager, and then by HR first line support in Paris, by supervisor in Paris, and then by supervisor in Brussels, and then by the director in Brussels, and then it's finally approved. And sometimes we need to get back because we need additional information. So we need to get back to previous stages. So this looks complex, but it's actually very normal for the business. I mean, right? And if you try to implement this kind of thing with Power Automate, well, actually you cannot do that. You won't be able to do that with Power Automate. So let's go to the next things, which is in Power Automate, approval in Power Automate. So if you want to implement approval in Power Automate, you know that, let's say you want to ask several persons to approve or to comment something. We have the create an approval action and wait for an approval. You can create a loop around that. And then you can check if the approve is rejected or approved, and then you can go to the next step, etc. But you know that there is a limitation, which is 30 days limitation in the workflow itself. So you can check if you don't reach the 30 days, so you can have a parallel loop if you want, where you will check if you don't reach, for instance, 28 days. So at 28 days, so before 30, you will alert supervisor telling them that we need to do something because we are reaching the end. However, it doesn't solve my customer issue because my customer request can take up to 1 year. Most of them, it's a few months, but it can take up to one year. Okay. Also, there are some issue with Power Automate approvals. For instance, in Power Automate, by default, when the system sends an approval request, it looks like this. So we can customize that, of course, but it's very limited. So we have approve, reject, some title. We can put some comment, submit. So that's very, very basic. Also, the approval center looks like this. So people can have a look at their approval history, approval sent, approval received. So they can do that, but it's very, very, very limited and too basic. So if you show that to many people, they will complain. For business people, manager, C-level managers, and even above. So to summarize, limitation 30 days, in flow duration, approval duration. Even canceling a flow is something which is very complex. There are many limitations for that. Only the approval requester can cancel an approval. You can implement that yourself, but you need to create a custom connector, which means that you need premium license. And even with a custom connector, there are many limitations. If you want to redirect an approval to someone else, well, which is actually why we need state machine. Well, that's very limited in Power Automate. Only the user can redirect. Sometimes we want the supervisor to be able to redirect an approval, etc. So also sometimes people who need to approve something may want to delegate their tasks because they can take vacation. So if tasks are sent to these people, if they're not there, there will be bottlenecks in your business process. So people must be able to delegate their task. Okay, not just supervisor, but also anyone in the company. So basically, we cannot easily do that with Power Automate, and that's why I did implement the BPM toolkit. So the implementation of the BPM toolkit is based on a pattern that I call the case management pattern. Let me quickly explain that, and then we'll go to the demo. The idea is the following. First, people will make requests. Again, I have 70 type of HR requests, so 70 type of requests, and each request will become a case. So you need a list for each type of request. Let's say you use SharePoint. You can use SharePoint if you want. You can use SQL Server. You can use the Common Data Server. Sorry, Dataflex, if you want. So requests will be one list for each request. Case, one list for all the cases. And then each request will become a case, and the case will go into a life cycle. So example, requests become a case, and the case can have several steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3. So for instance, several approvals. Then another request will become a case, and we'll go to the case life cycle, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, etc., etc. You see? So all the approval will happen in the case life cycle. With just this tree list, you can do a lot of things, which is basically the foundation of the BPM toolkit. Of course, you will see that the BPM toolkit is based on this three kind of lists, but we have more than that. This is the BPM toolkit data model. Again, I don't want to waste your time on this, but you create requests in your own custom list, and then the requests will go to the BPM toolkit. So in blue, that's the BPM toolkit data model. They will go to cases, and then they will go to case lifecycle. Okay. Now let's go for the demo, right? Because I think this is very boring for you. No?
Oh, I didn't find it boring. No, but it's good.
Oh,
good to get.
If you want, I can
background.
get back to the slides. If you want.
No, demo's good.
Demo's good. Okay. So again, this is a dev machine, so it can crash, right? So it's purely dev. It's even not test, it's dev. So we have different places. First, people can make requests. I will show you how people can make requests. There's 70 different type of requests. But first, anyone in the company has a dashboard. So if I go to the dashboard, you will see that the dashboard is implemented with Power Apps. And in dashboard, people can see their cases. So the requests that they have submitted before, and we will submit requests later. They can see their approval. They can see their task delegation. They can manage that here in this place, one central place. So example, these are the cases, so the requests basically, that I did submit. Okay, so different requests. You can see, you can filter the request based on their state. So some requests are waiting, some have been rejected, approved, some are draft, some have been stopped, you see, and some are waiting. So for instance, this was a request, a 10-day leave request, for instance, and I did submit that, well, today, this morning. And now you can see that I can follow the whole path. So I have a full visibility of the different step of my request. So it's in orange. So basically the request is waiting at this level here. If I take another one, you see, this request has been submitted to this guy, user 1. It's in gray for any reason. I don't remember which reason, but it has skipped to another user. Actually, this is a team, not a user. Team legal. It's green, so this team did accept the request. Then it moved to team Bretigny. Bretigny is a small town in Paris. It's in orange. So the system is waiting for team Bretigny to carry on, to approve, to reject, or to do something. You see? So the benefit of this.
I love the visual cues from the colors.
You like that?
Mm-hmm.
This here, it's a little bit, it's Apple style, right? Daniel, it's Apple style, right? Right?
I like Apple.
You like Apple, and of course, people can create different cases from this dashboard. So that's one thing. Next, some people are managers, so they may have to approve some request. If they go to my approval, they will see, oh, I've only one approval here. They can see a request here, so they can click here and say approved or reject. Okay, so they can confirm, they can reject, so they can work on their task. And also, anyone in the company can check their delegation. So for instance, I can say, I want to delegate my task to user 2. So anytime a business process sends a task to myself, automatically it will be sent to, in this case, user 2. And of course, nice. I can create task delegation. I can even specify a time frame. I can say, I want to delegate to user 2 from this date to that date, to user 3 from another date, etc., etc. You see? And the business process will take that into account. So
so like when the manager is going on holiday or something.
Yeah, exactly, on holiday. And you might have some strange issue. For instance, so a manager can delegate tasks to user 1, but user 1 might delegate to user 3, for instance, etc., right? So the system knows that if you delegate to another user, etc., it will take the last one into account. So it will analyze the cascade and will take the last one, right? So sometimes this can generate some strange issue. So that's the dashboard, right? So basically people can have a full visibility on everything. Now what we're gonna do is we will submit 2 HR requests. So there are demo requests. I'm working on a real one, which is this one here. I'm currently working on this one, but I will take the demo one. Expense request. Okay, so let's create an expense request. It's very basic. So I want, this is a travel to, to Utrecht, right? You can send request on behalf of someone if you want. My location is Brussels and the status is final, right? So I can upload document, I can upload attachment, etc. Okay, skip uploading, and I will create another one which is here, leave carryover, which is a bit more complicated, you will see. Let's say I want to take 11 days, 11 days. And I want to do that for myself. I'm in Brussels, status is final. And I want, so the request will go to a complex business process, but I can notify people as well. So I can say I want this person, so user 1 and say user 3, to be part of the business process as well, if I want. Okay, so submit. So it's submit. So basically, I have 2 HR requests that are submitted. And now I'm going to follow this HR request. So it might take some time for this business process to be triggered. Also, in this implementation, everything is stored in SharePoint list. I will do another implementation with Dataflex Pro and Dataflex Lite. That means that everything should be fully secured because that's HR information with medical information, etc. So user can only see their own data. They cannot edit data, right? So security is very, very, very important. So you don't write directly to SharePoint. You call a layer and the layer write to SharePoint with elevated privilege. Okay, so it's fully secured. So let's go to, let's say, no, I'm HR officer and I want to figure out what's going on in the business process. So HR officer will go there, reserved area, and then they have their dashboard. That's of course only for HR. And this is the dashboard. So these are my requests here. You can see I have many requests. Of course, I can filter the requests. Approved, I have 0 approved, 12 waiting, a few are stops. Okay, so let's go to waiting. You can search to the request. You can say, I want to search for all the business process dealing with Paris or Utrecht or whatever. So search works. And here you can see that these are the process that I've just submitted. So the system has analyzed my business process. For each type of business process, there is a different workflow that I will show you later. And the workflow is being built. That means the system is building the steps. So you can already see the steps here in gray. So I will refresh a little bit. You can see that now here for this request, travel to Utrecht, user 2 the system is waiting for user 2 to act on this business process. So if user 2 goes to his dashboard, he will get a new task. And in his Outlook, he'll get an email as well. You can see there is a star here, meaning that actually this request has been delegated. It was sent to another user, but then the system delegates to user 2. So it has been redirected to user 2. This is the meaning of this red star. If I refresh, you will see that this one is still working. Yes, you see this one here, the leave carryover. So this is not a user, this one, but this is a team HR support service. So the business processes are ready. You see, this is an expense. So this one is pretty simple. So it will go to these steps. This one is a bit more complex because it's leave carryover. So there are more steps, more teams. You see, director, first line support, etc. And even at the end, there is a workflow that will generate a document because the system can call workflow as well. Okay, so let's say I'm HR, so I see this and I want to interact with that. Which one will I take? I will take this one, for instance. I click here and now I can do more. So I'm Serge Luca, I'm an HR officer. What are my roles? Because the system can manage roles. So I'm a member of the following teams. I'm a member of the team HR support service. I'm a member of the team LM2. I'm also system supervisor and I'm a member of the team legal. What does that mean? That means that, as you can see here, the system is in orange here. So there is a clock here, meaning that the system is waiting for a member of this team to act on this task. And that's why I can do this. I can approve, I can reject. I can do that because I'm a member of this team's HR support service. Okay. So let's say I will accept this. Okay, fine. Of course, only HR can do this. Only HR has access to this dashboard. As you can see here, it's green. That means the HR support service or a member of the HR support service, basically it's me, did accept that. So the system put that in green, and the system is waiting, and the system will send the task to the next actor, which is in this case user one. It can take up to 20 or 30 seconds because there's some security running into the system. As HR officer, I can do many things. I can stop the workflow, the whole business process, not just one task. I can remove the workflow because I'm a member of the system supervisor role. Only these people can remove the workflow. I can, let's refresh a little bit to see if it's not, oh yes, it's ready, by the way, yes, okay. So you see, so it's skipped to this user. And so user one, so the system is waiting for user one to act on this task. So user one will get a notification and user one can go in his own dashboard and say accept or reject or whatever. But as a member of HR, I can also act on this. I can say, hey, I've got a phone call telling me that this guy is in vacation actually, and he didn't put any delegation. So if I don't do anything, there will be a bottleneck. So as HR, I can say this. I can say, oh, I want to skip this test, this step. I want to skip that. Okay, let's skip. Okay, and now you see the system moved to user 3. So now I can wait for user 3 to approve or reject or whatever. But I can also do this. I can say, hey, I want to redirect back to the first step, for instance, redirect. I can say, I want to go to step 0. Well, isn't that a state machine? Daniel?
Yeah, it is.
It's a state machine, right?
And you do that with SharePoint?
I do that with SharePoint because I have a layer on top of SharePoint. Yes, it's free. This does not require any license. It's free. So now the system is here. You see, it's get back here. So let's say, so if you remember, I'm a member of the HR support service. Oh, you see my role here. And because of this, I can act on the task. So let's say I will cancel this. I will reject. Okay, I confirm. So what the system will do, well, it all depends on the workflow itself, the workflow logic. And in this specific business process, which is a carryover request, if this actor reject, it will go to, I think, this one, second line supervisor. It can take 10 or 20 seconds because the system will put a message somewhere in a SharePoint list that will trigger the flow engine, because I have a workflow engine that I will show you if we have the time. So I'm going to refresh to just, as you can see here, the system went directly to this actor. So the system bypass these actors because this one rejected. When it rejected, it goes to the supervisor, and then the supervisor can say yes, no. If it say yes, it will go there, and then a document will be generated and put somewhere in a secure document library. Okay, so if I go back to this this workflow, so that's basically the same logic. Huh? So I'm a member of the HR, and I can act on these workflows, which is a bit different. So expense is a bit different. Okay, so I can insert a new step. Yeah, by the way, I can say this. That's something you cannot do in BPF, for instance. You can say, hey, I want to insert a new step. The workflow is running. You can see the workflow is live, right? It's running. I can say, I want to insert a new step here in the future. Hey, I want to add the steps for user 1. Okay, so I'm still stuck in user 2, but the next one will be user 1 because the situation is such as that, well, and you can see now we see user 1 here. The next one will be user 1. So I can dynamically update my flow, my workflows, my business process. And I have another concept, which is I'm thinking about that. I haven't implemented that yet, but the ping me, what is the ping me? Let's say you want to ask something to your user. So the user did submit a HR request, and you want to say to the user, hey, I need an additional document. Well, you can write an email and send an email to the guy and just waiting. There is another way, and the idea is you click on ping me, and the system will create two steps here. One to the user who submit the task, and one to yourself. So that means the user will get a message with a task, and the user will have to act on the task. And then when it's acted, the system will go to yourself, will go back to yourself. That's the ping me logic that I still need to implement.
That makes sense. So that would be instead of having to reject something and wait for the additional information.
Exactly. It's just a new task. I mean, that's natural, you see. And the benefit of this is that you will see your other colleagues, the HR officer will see that there were a new task and they can understand what happened instead of getting into emails, etc. Also, HR officer, because people work in team, can ask question or send information to others. As you can see here, this is another team. This is another team as well. Okay, so there are different teams across HR. So sometimes you want to put a message or share a message across the team or even ask a question. So you can do this. You can say, hey, do you know, does anyone know where Utrecht is? Okay, just put that here, and then you will see that the message show up in the newsfeed. So the business process is a newsfeed. So people can answer, they can add new message, anyone can add information here. So the business process carries the newsfeed as well. Now the question is, should we put that in Teams? Well, it depends. In the future, I might put that in Team for people who want to use Team for that. Okay. So basically, all the information is centralized here across all team. So now let's say I can stop this business process, right? So I can do, yeah, let's stop this. And you will see it's being stopped. Yes, it stops. So if I refresh this, you see it's blacked, it's stopped. If I refresh my dashboard, my HR dashboard, normally you will see that after a while, it's gonna be black. We need to wait a little bit. It can take 15 or 20 seconds. We don't really care because the system moved from one team to the other team, so it can take even one day. We don't care. But basically the idea is now we have full visibility on every business process. We can search across business process, we can filter, we have KPI, we'll have additional KPIs on the business process. And we have state machine, we have an approval center, we have a dashboard. I mean, and it's free. You don't need any premium. There's no limitation. So for instance, a business process can take 10 years to complete if you want. I mean, there's no limitation. Okay. So now I need to, do we still have?
Yeah, I'd like to see if you could maybe, yeah, we've got a few minutes left. If you could just maybe give us an overview of how the flows work together specifically.
Yes. Okay, yes, I'm going to show you that. And so everything is written with, of course, Power Automate and Power Apps. Let's go to my solution. So we have a solution called BPM Toolkit. And here we have a bunch of flows. As you can see,
yes, there are a bunch.
A couple.
A couple of flows. And we have a few Canva apps. So example, the dashboard, if I show you the dashboard, or the workflow dashboard, this one. Let's open this. But the idea is, on the architecture point of view, is that Canva apps can talk to flows that I call proxy flows. And these proxy flows talk to another flow that run in elevated privilege. Because end user cannot see the SharePoint list, they cannot see the SharePoint site. Even if they have access to the SharePoint list, they won't be able to change anything. Everything is fully protected and confidential. So we have Canva apps with, of course, galleries containing sub-galleries and so on. So it's basically Canva apps powered by flows. Let's go back to where are my flows here? Let's go back to the solution, BPM Toolkit. And in the flows, we have two flavors of flows. For instance, here I've create case, and we have create case proxy. So the Canva apps call create case proxy all the time, and create case proxy call create case, for instance. Oh. And the benefit is this one is run with the identity of the end user, which basically is limited privilege. And this one called this one, and this one will run with a service account. And the service account can do whatever you want. I mean, it's full privilege. So that's how I manage security. And maybe should I just get back to the slide, because I have more explanation on the architecture.
Oh, okay.
If you want, which is this. This is the architecture. So at the moment, it's based on SharePoint list. That means it's free, right? You might have to buy some capacity add-on, maybe to get more API call. Because, for instance, in some day for my current customer, in some day, up to 5,000 requests can be generated, especially in September for the school allowance request, for instance. Everybody wants to make school allowance requests at the same time. So the system must be able to sustain the load, must be scalable. So, but in the future, I'm going to implement that in DataFlex for people who want to use that, DataFlex or DataFlex Pro. The implementation is based on Power Automate. But if you want, you can use Logic Apps as well. If the pricing model of Logic Apps is better, Logic Apps could be used as well. And in the BPM toolkit, there is a core. There are core components. Okay, so the core components are the following: you have a SharePoint access layer. There will be a DataFlex access layer. There is a very important module, which is the workflow runtime here. The workflow runtime module. So anytime someone do something, the workflow runtime module get a message, and the message run the workflow. I mean, there's high-level workflow. That's what synchronize everything. Workflow runtime module. There is a workflow generator, and let me show you that quickly. Let me show you that, because the question is, how can you define your workflows? Well, you don't have to write code. Let me show you that. I have the concept of meta workflows. Example, in the demo, I've illustrated two HR requests, expense and leave carryover. Oh, did I define the workflow? Well, actually, in a SharePoint list, you can do this. An expense need to go to the following step. Anytime you submit an expense, step 0 is this guy. Step 1 is this group of people, this team. Step 2 is this one. Step 3, this one, etc., right? And the action, you can specify the type of action that you expect. Sometimes it's feedback. Feedback means people can say yes or no, whatever. We take that into account, but it won't stop the workflow. But if you say approval, that means if you expect an approval, if people say yes, it's stopped, it's approved, right? The business process stopped. So we have different options. So you can define your own business process without writing code, just by filling in a SharePoint list. Let me show you another example, which is the leave carryover, which is this one here. You can see this one is more complex. If you want to make a leave request, it will go to the following steps. Step 0, it has to go to HR support service. Action is feedback. And then actors. If you specify that you want several managers to be informed, you just provide the name of the manager, and the system will take all these names into account. You have one step for each managers. Then it go to this team, then go to this approver, then to this team, then to this team, etc. Some step could be a workflow. So my workflow can call another workflow. So you can call a workflow, you just need to provide a link to the workflow you want to call, like here. And how can you implement state machine? Well, it's very easy. If you remember, in my demo, if HR support service say it's rejected, then the system went to, I think, second line supervisor, right? You just need to specify this. If the status equal negative, go there, second line supervisor. So you don't have to write code. I mean, it's quite easy. My customer has several workflow, and you just put that in SharePoint list, and the runtime understand that.
Oh, okay. So are you then generating a new flow based on these values?
No, you don't generate flow.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, the system analyze this. You read this, and what I call the workflow generator generates steps. It generates steps and puts steps in a SharePoint list.
But that's another flow?
It's not another flow. It's based on data. It's just a data model. I can show you that if you want. If you give me more
just very quickly, maybe, but just because this is fascinating. But yeah.
Yeah. So here, actually, you see here in my list that I call cave lifecycle, the system automatically generates steps. So step 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., and assign the step to actors. And at runtime, if you want to add a new step dynamically, the system will add a new step, insert a step here, and will change the step number of the others automatically. And the workflow ran by following the step number. You see, so just put information in SharePoint list and the system does the rest. Okay.
When it can't find the next number, it's finished, or?
Yeah, it can see if the last one is finished. If there's no steps, if this one is the last one, then the system complete, the business process completes.
Okay, cool.
So and voila, there's more than that because there are roles, there are security, but people in roles. But basically, it's very simple, and it can handle mission critical process. So I've done stress tests on up to 1,500 requests, and it was very fast. So now I need to go up to 5,000 requests, because for each request can generate up to 10 approval, right? So that means 5,000 requests multiplied by 10, that means 50,000 item in a list that must be secured. So we use unique permission.
And did I hear you say one other time when you were going through this that I was watching, there's some sort of archiving or something that takes things off of the list when they're no longer needed, right?
Yeah, exactly, because there is a limitation in the number of items that need to be secure in SharePoint. And after a while, when everything has been approved or rejected, when the business process is done, is completed, after several weeks, the system take everything, moved all information in a Word document, and put that in the archive. So that's how it works, and remove everything from the list. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Is there any? We're getting short on time. So is there any other part that you would especially like to show us, and then let people know how they can bug you about finding out more?
Yeah, just to be quick on this. This slide illustrates the architecture, which is we have a storage layer, we have a business layer, which is flows, right? And we have UI layer, which is Power Apps Canvas. We have analytics layer, which will be based on Power BI. And that's how the communication works. So we have Power Apps called flows and flows called the storage layer. So Power Apps does not interact in write mode with the storage layer. It needs to talk to flow for security reasons. However, sometimes Power Apps can read information from the storage layer. So that's basically the architecture. And what I need to, without getting into the details, is that this is the roadmap. And the idea is when this will be stabilized, actually the workflow engine is stabilized, I will move everything into GitHub, right? So you will just need, an Office 365 license to be able to run this thing.
Awesome.
And we'll put more features. There is a roadmap that I'm going to share, which is here on the slide, but we'll put some machine learning I will provide an RPA integration with this, because at some point people in HR need to put some information in other application, old application. So that's the real world. And so there will be an RPA link, RPA implementation of this, you see. So there is a big roadmap, but we don't have the time to talk about this. But well, I think it's a very exciting project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see?
It really is. Very cool. Very cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
so how do people get in touch with you? How best if they want to find out more about this? I mean, I know you said it's on GitHub. Did you
Yes.
put the
So
link
it's
somewhere?
not, yeah, it's not on GitHub
Or
yet.
it will be.
Because
right.
yeah, it will be. I want everything. I want the code to be cleaned up. So I need to move that to production for my first customer, and then I will move everything to GitHub. And in the meantime, if people are interested, they can talk to me by sending a Twitter message to @Serge Luca, right?
Okay.
So this is my email address, and I would be more than happy to talk about that or to put other ideas. But my goal is to share that and to make that robust and to give this product a very long life and to keep it very generic. I mean, see,
because people could just use parts of it, I guess, as ideas, really, too.
Absolutely, they can take this as an inspiration to do something else. Yes.
Yeah, super cool ideas. You're a genius.
Yeah. No, I'm not a genius. I just okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think.
So this is a long dream that we had with Daniel, which is we need task forms. We have actually task forms. We need a state machine. We need unlimited runtime. Yeah. So no, we have it. I mean, for free.
Yeah.
So you did this just for Daniel. That's sweet.
I did it for Daniel. Yes, I did it for Daniel. Yes, yeah, we the challenge.
We made years ago. We made a wish list of what we wanted to have.
Actually, that's true. We made a wish list almost 3 years ago. Yeah. So we talked to the Flow team at that time, or the Power Automate team, and it was the highest priority in the list, right? That was the highest feature requested by people at the MVP Summit. And well, actually, no, we have it.
Built by Serge.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Serge, for bringing us into the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me too. Yes.
Thank you.
This is great. All right. And thanks, everybody, for joining. And we'll see you in August at some point. We'll have a date, so be sure to follow Flow Pro Show on Twitter to find out when that will be.
Great.
All right.
Okay. See you in August. Bye-bye.
Right.
See you in 1 month.
Bye.
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 See you.